And specifically, we're talking about okesa. There are other robes, of course. Here I'm wearing jikitotsu with these big sleeves. And you can see, like these are a little bit blue because I was told that's how you do it. It shouldn't be quite black. These are linen and they're wrinkly. They're wrinkly beyond repair. And that too, in the environment where I trained, was seen as a positive. Right? That there's something kind of rough about it. That there's an almost shabbiness to it that doesn't have that other feeling of, ooh, you're looking good today, right? With your shiny suit. And that the fabrics are not synthetic. And the fabrics are not smooth. They don't have a sheen to them. They're dull. The material for the kesa is intended to be what's called funzo, which is why we say funzo-e. That in theory, we use discarded cloth, collected cloth, retrieved cloth. If not discarded cloth, donated cloth. I attended a funeral recently at a Theravada temple, and what I saw, and I thought this was so wonderful, was that part of that tradition is that the family of the deceased brings the white cloth that wrapped the deceased's body. They bring it, fold it, and they make it as an offering to the monks so that it can be made into a robe. And in this way, it's not just that the monks get this thing that they don't have to go looking for, right? But that the family is transforming their experience of death, right? That in the process of losing someone they love, they're also taking some of the concrete elements of that loss, and they're handing it over to someone else to transform. And the next time they see that cloth, it will show up on a person's body as a robe, as something entirely different, right? Not as a sad thing, but as something to be venerated. The reality, of course, is that most robes are made from new cloth because people don't go to the funeral homes and the hospitals and the dumpsters and find the cloth to make a robe. And then we have this gesture of kind of staining the robe. You offer up your robe to a teacher and the teacher makes a mark. And that way, at least, the cloth is not flawless. And then you receive it back. The color of a robe would be what we call a blended color. It would be a color that does not engender feelings of greed, luxury, or jealousy. Now, that's a little vague, but if we go back, if we look at the Vinaya, if we look at how this tradition is developed, there are more specific rules than that. So there are colors that we don't use, white, black, and then also bright, bright colors like pink. Right? If we, whatever color we use the muted version of it, the dull version of, even if it's something in the family of yellow, for example, that it would be a dull, dull yellow. There are reds that are like a dirt road, that kind of red. Blues that are not bright blue, not like the Zoom logo, but but something darker or something more reserved. And we say broken, a broken color. So it's not, the color appears in a kind of imperfect way on the cloth. Again, when we say that something should not engender feelings of greed, luxury, or jealousy, we need parameters on that because, in fact, different things arouse that in different people. And I know, as a victim of Zuyoji, where there's a kind of, there's a real preference for blue, and for a particular kind of blue, that after getting used to that around me and seeing that all around me, that now when I see that blue, I have two reactions to it, and one of them is, I think exactly the reaction that I'm supposed to have, which is that I feel, it's like incense, right? You smell incense and it's like you're in the house of the Buddha and I'm here. And so when I see this color blue, there's a part of me that feels like, oh, like I'm gonna stand up a little taller because this blue makes me feel that way. And there's another part of it where I feel like, I want that, right? I just found the perfect blue and I want more blue. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Blue.
Blue. This is, yes, an excellent representation of what we're talking about. This is blue.
That's 100-year-old indigo. That fabric.
Yeah.
Give it to me. Yes, there's attachment there.
Yes, there's attachment.
There's attachment there.
Yes. Right, and you can only imagine what you just did to me.
That was part of what I was doing, was to see what happened.
Right. But it's beautiful. Yeah, so someone should
You said beautiful.
should open it up. Right?
You've done it to everybody.
So would you please stand up?
Sawyer, are you recording?
I want, this is a great thing to do because, here you take that corner. This is an excellent example, so thank you, Hoko, of what we're talking about. This is a very, very Nyoho-e. And I think you can see it pretty well with the light, so I'm grateful for that. You can see, first of all, this cloth, has been through it. And there are little, not quite holes, but almost holes, right? This is not fresh from the store. Also, there's variation in the robe because you have two different kinds of indigo cloth working at the same time. And so it's not all one thing.
No, so the wider panels there are, so as I was leaving Toshoji, the just immediate past Shuso came to me one day because I'd been doing a lot of sewing there. He said, I want to give you something, and here he came with this roll of fabric. And he said, my grandmother wove this.
Oh my God.
I said, Daiki-san, how can you give this away? Oh, no, please take it. And I thought, well, you don't go home and make a tote bag out of that, right? I mean,
Right.
You give the best of what you have to Buddha. So I'd been teaching everyone else to sew these things while I was there, and I never had a chance to sew a blue one.
Right.
So of course, I didn't have enough to make the whole thing. So I supplemented with, I think that's tencel, I think that's bamboo fabric in between. So it's all natural fibers, but because that's 100-year-old fabric and I got it from someone who said my grandmother wove it,
Right.
you give that to Buddha, what else do you do, right? So anyway, that's why it's two kinds of fabric.
Yeah, so it's repurposed.
Yeah.
Right? It's supported by other things. And it has, and you can see that the blue in the older cloth is an excellent example of what we'd say is a broken color, right? You can see the white in the blue. You can see the variations in the blue. There's nothing in a conventional sense that is perfect about it. And that evokes this feeling that we come to recognize in this practice of Nyoho. I'm just gonna put this in my bag.
That's fine.
Thank you for sharing.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Glad it was helpful.
Very.
I wear that one, I don't wear this on days I'm not in charge, that's a good day. If I get to wear the blue one, that's a good day.
Of course, now I have to get over it. But, so, obviously, and well demonstrated, we have different relationships to different colors. Right. So we have to be thinking about this in a couple of ways. One is, if I'm making this robe for myself, and you know, in my experience of making robes, you very rarely make a robe for yourself. You make a lot of robes for other people, right? That's part of the joy of it, is that you're making this offering. But if you're making a robe for yourself, you have to think, first of all, how am I going to relate to this? Am I going to kind of strut around a little bit in this robe because I really love this fabric, or I really love this color, and it makes me feel kind of special? If the answer is yes, and if this is your lens, maybe this is not the right cloth for you. We also have an awareness, though, of audience, right? As practitioners, in every element of this practice, we understand that we always practice together. We are not practicing in isolation. Whether it's how people look at us doing zazen, or how they look at us when we're dressed, there is something we are offering in every moment. And so we also have to ask ourselves, how might others react to this? And if there is a part of us that is hoping that they will look at the robe and say, oh, that's a really nice robe, again, we should maybe rethink that. Because what we want people to see is the Buddha's robe, not this robe. And then the way that we measure okesa is according to our own body. And there are different ways to do it, but traditionally it's done according to what's called chu measurement, which can be from your elbow to the tip of your middle finger, or your elbow to your fist, or your elbow to halfway. And using this, a robe would typically be 3 of these lengths high and 5 of them wide. And by doing that, we make something that is again, in theory, perfectly suited to the body of the person we're measuring. Some variation if people are bigger or smaller in their kind of body shape, but that's where we start. And that's robes. And we could talk about robes forever.